Hey, so quickly before this video begins, I want to comment on my last video. It was up for only a few hours and it had to do with Respawn Punisher. For anyone who didn't see it, don't worry about it. If you did see it, I want to explain basically where that went and what went wrong. Essentially, like I said in the video, I was using a parameter database known as sendu.inc for looking at gear builds and seeing the stats. And I noticed comparing the stats displayed on sendu.inc to those on the wiki and patch notes that they were wrong. Now in every other way, sendu.inc is always correct with its information, so I assumed that the rest was wrong and basically somehow convinced myself that I tested it correctly and that I was saying all this correct information, where I guess somehow it did mess up my testing because to me it seemed like the sendu.inc information was right, but clearly upon further inspection with people pointing it out to me, I was definitely wrong. So the entire basis of the video was saying that sendu.inc was right and the rest of the community's understanding of Respawn Punisher was wrong, and that was just straight up incorrect information. And me as a creator who aims towards making informative content definitely did not want to keep up that video because I had wrong information, even though it was being received well and being spread around pretty rapidly, honestly. I will say that some good came from it though, because very shortly after that, sendu.inc was corrected, so if you do use that site now for looking at gear, it now displays proper information. But yes, my claim of the video is that the wiki and patch notes were wrong. That is wrong, they are actually very right. I still believe that Respawn Punisher is a strong ability, but I took down the video again because, yeah, the claims I was making just were not true, but I didn't know that. Anyway, I just wanted to clear that up for people who did see that video, and now moving on to this one. Hope you enjoy. Hello, I'm Pika, and welcome back. Rainmaker is a mode in Splatoon all about dishing out high damage and moving very fast, and a lot of players recently have discovered that the Sploosh 7 is a really good weapon for this. It has one of the highest DPS outputs in the game, the fastest movement in the game, and a kit overall that really helps it and its team pop Rainmaker and stop other teams' pushes. However, what if I told you there was another weapon with very similar qualities that I don't hear very many people talk about in Rainmaker, and that would be the Aerospray MG. Now I know what you're thinking. When a lot of people first think of a DPS powerhouse, this is not the weapon that comes to mind. However, especially on Rainmaker, there's a lot that this kit can do that most people don't immediately see or think about. To show what I'm talking about, I want to take a deep dive into both these weapon stats and compare them against each other. So, both the Aerospray and the Sploosh are classified, by the community at least, as spray shooters. That means that their accuracy is pretty flimsy and their range is pretty low, but they have very high fire rates and loads of turf output. Aerospray has Sploosh beat slightly with range, but because its accuracy is so flimsy and its damage is so low, especially at the end of its range, it's not actually that effective for fighting there. It's mostly just for painting. And on the other hand, we have Sploosh. Its range is a little bit lower than Aerospray, but its accuracy is also a little bit better, but still not great. However, its damage is where it really shines. Where Aerospray's damage is really flimsy, Sploosh just deals loads very quickly if you get close. Also, both weapons are lightweight, which means they move very fast. However, Sploosh actually has an extra buff over other shooters where it accelerates faster when changing directions. So it actually has slightly better movement than the other shooters. I will say that a lot of higher level players know about other ways to avoid this problem with other weapons such as sub-strafing or just shot strafing to otherwise change your direction very quickly. So in a lot of cases, a good Aerospray user will have the same movement as a Sploosh nonetheless, but it's still worth mentioning this. Okay, so we have two pretty flimsy shooters without that much range that paint very well and move fast. Well, first of all, like I said, DPS is very important in Rainmaker because there's a lot of situations where you need to pop Rainmaker shield for your team so you get a lot of paint damage out, and you obviously can grab the Rainmaker. In terms of DPS, Sploosh has Aerospray beat hard. It deals 38 damage per shot without any MPU, and it shoots 12 times per second, giving it a DPS of 456. However, against the Rainmaker shield, it actually has an extra multiplier which makes it even more than this. On the other end, we have Aerospray, which even though it shoots faster than Sploosh at 15 shots per second, its shots do way less at 24. Also, it does not have extra damage against the Rainmaker shield, so its DPS output is only 360. Granted, this DPS is still a fair bit higher than a lot of weapons in the game, but it is nothing compared to Sploosh's dominance. So right now it's sounding like I'm saying a lot of good about the Sploosh and not really Aerospray, but I'm supposed to be arguing that Aerospray is better, so where am I going with this? So again, in terms of Rainmaker popping, sure, your main weapon does matter a lot. What matters a lot more, especially again in higher level games, is the fact that you can spam bombs and specials to help your team pop. And this is where Aerospray really wins over Sploosh. Not a lot of people know this, but a while back it was changed to where suction bombs actually deal more damage than most bombs. As you see there, suction bomb does 220 on a direct hit, while a splat bomb does 180. This 40 extra damage may not seem like much, but in the heat of a moment, especially where Rainmaker pops happen very fast and can often be swung by just small damage differences, this can stack up. Especially if you're running double bomb, which is very easy to achieve with last ditch effort on Rainmaker because points tend to go low very fast in the game, and then double bombs, just obviously throwing two bombs at once, is a lot of damage on the Rainmaker shield. Alright, so how about the special now? Hammer, as people know, is very short range, but when you are up close, it does a lot of damage, especially to Rainmaker shield. It has a lot of damage multipliers, and you can just keep swinging over and over on top of the Rainmaker to pop it very fast. Also, Hammer is good at just running up and smacking someone if you're sharking as the Rainmaker is going past. You can stop pushes easily. Also, because the Rainmaker holder is always glowing, it's not very hard to just nail them with a hammer toss from across the map. That'll also end a push very easy. On the other end, we have Aerospray with Curling Bomb Rush. As a lot of people might know, since bomb spam in general is good for popping Rainmaker and stopping Rainmaker pushes, so is Bomb Rush, because that is exactly what the special is. Throwing out a lot of bombs all the time is a lot of damage, and stacking up in one location will either help you pop Rainmaker, stop the opponent's push, or even make your own. So right now, both these weapons seem very good for Rainmaker. Both have very good specials that can pop Rainmaker very quickly. Both have decent main weapons, but Sploosh is a lot better. And both have good sub-weapons, but Aerospray is better there. So they cancel out just about. This seems pretty even. So what is the difference? Well, there's two things when it comes to popping Rainmaker that I think Aerospray has Sploosh actually beat by. First of all, as I said before, Hammer is very short range, at least if you want to get all the wax out of it on shield to pop very quickly. And having to approach the Rainmaker that close can be pretty risky, especially in higher level play. It is not very easy to stay alive for that long. However, bombers can be used from a much farther distance, letting you be a lot safer. Additionally, looking at the points for specials between these weapons, Aerospray MG is 160, while Sploosh 7 is 180. Both these weapons paint amazingly, but there's no denying that 160 is cheaper than 180, meaning that this weapon will get more specials than Sploosh. And as long as each fight around Rainmaker is being decided by shield pops, the weapon that's getting more specials will tend to win more pops, because it'll be prepared more often. Overall, the reason why I think this weapon is so good on Rainmaker is because it itself almost never wants to grab the Rainmaker. It wants to stand right behind its teammates who are pushing it forward and then just keep popping shield time and time again to keep the push going and just keep setting off giant explosions on your way. This can really snowball pushes hard in your favor, and even if your teammates die several times in the process of grabbing Rainmaker, you'll still end up pushing forward, probably taking lead and maybe even KOing. It is very possible for Aerospray to get multiple bomb rushes within one push of the Rainmaker even if you're not running special charge, and even if you don't have your special, if you have double suction bomb when you're wearing object shredder, you can still win most pops fairly easily. One nice advantage that suction bombs have over splat bombs and Rainmaker for popping shield is that because suction bombs linger in place for a while, you can put them on top of Rainmaker shield as it's reforming to hit them the very frame it becomes active. While with splat bombs, since they explode pretty fast on the ground, you have to be a lot better at timing them to get two to hit at once, or you overall just sometimes can't do that at all. With these, it's very easy to layer two in place on top of the Rainmaker and pop it literally the first frame possible, which is very strong. If you're popping Rainmaker shield on the first frame it's active, it is literally impossible for the opponent to counterplay that unless they themselves are also trying to pop it on the first frame. I have a few pretty scuffed gameplay clips of what I'm trying to talk about, but they definitely get the point across. We have the bomb setups, we have the curling rushes to pop Rainmaker in the literal 1v4 situations. Like, this weapon's clutch potential on Rainmaker is huge, and it has so much control over the pace of the game, which in the fastest paced mode in the game is obviously important. Now hear me out, I'm definitely not here to say that Aerospray is always better than Sploosh on Rainmaker. There's plenty of maps where Hammer has a much better time moving around and following the path of the Rainmaker, where curling rush just falls short due to map geometry or something else. Additionally, if you just love the Sploosh, then go for it. It's still very strong on the mode. I'm just here to say that if you're looking for an optimized way to pop Rainmaker and move it forward as often as possible, Aerospray just has the numbers to back it up to be straight up better than Sploosh. Additionally, I do feel like Curling Rush is a better way to pave a path forward for your team and whoever's holding Rainmaker than Hammer is. Hammer is a pretty selfish special that only protects you, and even then it doesn't actually protect you that consistently, while Curling Rush is just a wave of ink and hitboxes that your team can swim through and push up with. I will say that if you are trying to use Aerospray and Rainmaker now, you don't have to copy my build exactly, but I do recommend running something very similar to this. I have last ditch effort and a fair bit of ink saver sub to make sure I get double suction bomb fairly easy as the opponent starts to push my last ditch effort range. And like I was saying before, having double suction bomb is very important for winning a lot of pops and making this weapon validated in the first place on this mode. Additionally, Object Shredder is basically required here. It makes the one frame setups far easier to pull off because you're just dealing more damage to the Rainmaker. It also just swings general pops in your favor because you just deal more DPS with all parts of your kit, but the one frame pop setups are especially important to me. With all that said, I'd like to thank you for watching. Remember, at the end of the day, this is a game and do what you enjoy. There's nothing wrong with Sploosh, there's nothing wrong with plenty of other weapons on Rainmaker. I'm just here to talk about Aerospray, which is one of my favorite weapons to play on this mode, and I feel like I almost never see it used outside of myself. As always, I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and have a good one.